What's your second question?
What?
Was that question one?
It was a mix of multiple questions.
What's your next question?
It kind of dived in.
What's your next question? What? We got carried away?
Yeah, we did get carried away.
Shocker.
Who do you hope to become one day? And in the process of getting there, I guess this is the same question rephrased, but of course we want buku money and all that stuff and all that awesome, awesomeness that we can have every day and enjoy. But as a person, who do you see yourself becoming in that process?
Like who? Like pick an Elon Musk or pick a Michael Jordan who I want to become similar to, or
kind of like how do you think
I want to grow?
That more so that like how do you think getting to that buku money will change you as a person, and what traits do you think you'll embellish along the way, and what do you think you'll pick up, and who do you see yourself becoming as a man? Or do you think that you have that now and you're just, chiseling away at the rock, and that's the person you are today will be the person you are then?
I've always been really comfortable with who I am from when I graduated high school on. Because in high school, I didn't like who I was. I would pretend to be someone else. I would try and be something I wasn't, right? And towards the end of high school, I became very comfortable with who I was, right? And even in college, I was like, I don't feel like an engineer right now. I'm suffering in these classes. I'm dumb as a bag of rocks. I don't know what's going on, right? I graduated, got the degree. I learned how to do the math, right? I'm working the 9 to 5, and I still don't feel like an engineer. Not because I don't feel like I've earned it, but it feels like I'm not supposed to be here, right? But going all through high school, I knew I meant to be an engineer. This is what I'm supposed to do, right? And I was very sure of myself. And in college, I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be an engineer. I don't feel like it, but I'm very sure of who I am. And this is the track that I'm on, and this is what I'm going to do. So even though I feel like it's not where I'm meant to be, it's where I'm going to go. And so I think that what's interesting to me, I know right now you're dedicated to personal growth and you have specific areas in mind that you want to get better in.
Sure.
Become more in, right?
Yeah.
But I'm always in a constant state of I'm comfortable with who I am. I'm a good person, right? And it's only when I find an area that I'm lacking that I start to grow in that area, because I don't see them. I don't look for them. They don't come up often, right? So interestingly, the other evening I was listening to the summary of Sell or Be Sold, right?
Yeah.
And he's talking about how every interaction is a sale, right? And you need to become positively off-putting, and you need to be more, accepting of conversation. Like people need to look at you and want to talk to you, right? And I recognized that day, when I'm interacting with the cashier at the grocery store, I have my earbuds in, I'm not making eye contact, I'm not in the mood to talk, and I'm making that very apparent to them, right? And that's fine, because that's conveying how I feel at the time. But why do I feel like that? Why can't I have a positive interaction with someone? Why can't I make someone's day a little better, right? Because A, that has a positive impact on them. And B, that good karma might come around one day. Maybe that person working at the grocery store's dad is an investor and he could make a huge business deal happen for me, right? Like at the very minimum, it just makes someone else's day better. So I've been doing this thing. I picked it up from the Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer podcast, but I tell the drive-through driver workers, after I make my order, I tell them I love you. And then they like freeze. And then I go to pay and I'll like kid around with them. I'll be like, you didn't say it back. And they'll be like, I had no idea what to say. Right. But like, it's a fun interaction. And like, I know that they carried that through the rest of the day.
Right.
Right. So since listening to that Sell or Be Sold podcast, I've tried to become more positively off-putting and more accepting to other people's conversation. Occasionally, I'll politely say, I need some time to work right now, but I'll circle back. And then I do. But generally, I'm trying to be more positively opened up. And that's not something that I had identified previous, because I was perfect a month ago, right? And now 2 days ago, I realized I'm not perfect. Make this change, right? You're never perfect, but you can be happy with who you are.
But being comfortable in your own skin is really powerful.
Right. And that's what I value.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I think that's something that I've struggled with, is that up until recently, I really feel like I've catered myself to the interactions and the people I hang out with. So given a certain group of people, I'll present myself in a certain way or not make certain jokes and stuff like that. And I don't think I realized how uncomfortable that made me inside until I started branching myself out and letting just me be me. And it really changed my, and my interactions still remained good because I have a positive outlook and positive energy, but now I'm just being myself instead of trying to figure out what this person wants me to cater to and stuff like that. And I think to a certain extent, if you're talking with, let's say, investors, or you're talking with other people who want to be involved with your business or stuff like that, it's valuable to be able to see their perspective and to some extent cater your wording to be most effective in the conversation. But I think also it's really important to just be comfortable with who you are, because I think the line is drawn where you feel like you aren't being yourself in the interaction. There's a line between making the conversation work and changing your wording so that it's more effective, and then not being yourself in what you're saying.
Right.
And I didn't have a clear distinction between those two up until more recently. And so that's a part of personal growth that I've been going through and really enjoying. And, you have ups and downs, of course, but overall, I think it's been really positive for my mental health and just how I approach day to day.
How do you delineate, like when you're in conversation, how do you catch yourself appealing to somebody and losing your sense of self? Like, what do you use as an indicator to recognize, oh, I'm not being me right now?
I think two things. I think that, this is kind of bland, but just a gut feeling. Like if I'm about to say something and I feel like I should pull it back because of the situation I'm in, right, then that indicates to me, okay, potentially I might be saying something that's just me, and there's a part of my brain that's like, hey, maybe that's not appropriate for this conversation. But when I experience that, I think another thing that I do is that I just don't respond, and I'll politely agree or kind of nod my head and not really say anything. And that, let's say there's a conversation about favorite flavors of ice cream or whatever, and they say chocolate. And, in my head, I'm like Rocky Road or pistachio, right? And then, if I don't want to make it awkward between us, I'll go, yeah, that's a cool flavor. Or, yeah, I get you. Something like that, to where I'm not really agreeing or disagreeing. I'm just letting them be them. And that allows me to be me without having to push my opinion onto them. All right.
So previously you were pushing your opinion onto them and making it uncomfortable?
Previously, I would go, I love chocolate too. Like, I love this certain brand of chocolate. So I would dive into their perspective and assimilate myself to whatever they thought.
Got it.
Rather than just remaining myself and letting them be them. Like, I wanted to be them to make them as comfortable as possible. Whereas I don't really see the point of that anymore.
Right. I understand. Yeah, no, I think that's an appropriate amount of throttling back.
Yeah.
Because then you're not catering to them.
Right.
Right. You're not bullshitting.
Right.
Because people can tell when you're fake, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're like, oh, I love chocolate. Dove is an awesome brand. You can use it as soap. You can use it as chocolate. It's a use, right?
Yeah.
It's 2-in-1 shampoo and chocolate. And they can tell when you're catering to them. So they can smell that bullshit a mile away, right? And sometimes they can't. Sometimes you do a great job of lying, right?
Yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, people can tell.
At least you feel it inside too. Like you feel it in your gut when you lie. At least like I do. Like I feel it internally when I have to not be myself. And that's another indicator for me that like, hey, maybe, you should, switch up the topic of the conversation or rephrase what you're about to say, or maybe think about who you are and cater more towards yourself rather than trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes too much.
Right. Something I strive to do is be unapologetically authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
I think that one of the ways someone who I was listening to on a podcast defines authentic is acting in a reflective way of how you feel, right? And so it's if you feel a certain way, you act a way that reflects that. And so if I think something's stupid, I'm going to say it's stupid, right? You don't have to be a dick about it,
right?
You can still say that, right? So like if someone's like, "What's your favorite flavor ice cream?" I might be like, "Well, ice cream's not my thing, right? But I like chocolate." Or something like that, right? Not fucking ice cream stupid. I can't believe you eat that. What the fuck is wrong with you? You're gonna get fat. Like it doesn't have to be mean, right?
Right.
But I do try and be authentic to a detriment sometimes, right? But I think that oftentimes it's better to be authentic to a fault than to be catering to a fault. Because if I'm speaking to somebody, right, and they're off-putting in one of two ways, either they're off-putting in a catering sense where I feel like they're just trying to brown nose and suck me off, right? Or they're being an asshole because they're being too much themselves. I would so much rather be in a conversation with someone who's too much themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're so sure of what they like and don't like, even if it's polarizing, right? Like if I were having a conversation with somebody about, I don't know, let's just say Dale Earnhardt's C6 Corvette, And they said, hey, what do you think of this car? And I said, bro, that looks like a Ferrari. And they're like, dude, it looks just like a Ferrari. It's SF380, whatever. Pull it up. It's a 2008 car, right? It looks just like it. And they don't believe that. I'll sense that, right? But if I pull it up and you're like, that's fucking retarded. It doesn't look like the Ferrari. What the hell is wrong with you?
That's literally what I said.
And then you close the laptop and you're like, we're done with this conversation. I would so much rather, it's fucking annoying because I'm right, but I would so much rather be in a conversation with you than someone who's just trying to cater to me, because you don't want to be with somebody who's always agreeing with you. That's not my friend, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not even a good business partner. That's not a person I want in my life. I want some disagreement. I want some authenticity.
Yeah.
I want some honesty, right?
I heard the other day on a podcast, the real good friends are the people who are brutally honest with you and tell you what you don't want to hear, but tell you that truth, right?
Right.
And so I think that, like you said, that's super, super valuable. And something that I've noticed too after listening to that is with a lot of my coworkers and stuff like that, like I don't ever speak about what I think they're doing with their time, or wasting away, getting drunk every night and not doing anything productive with their life, and then being sad about the fact that they don't have a girlfriend or whatever, right? And it's like, I don't ever speak out to them in that way because they aren't true friends to me. But then with true friends like you, it'll always come, although I take a lot of time to develop my thoughts before I say anything or something like that, but it'll always come from a place of brutal honesty and, a good place of development and help, not a bad place of, I want to put you down or anything, or judgment or anything like that. Right. So I think that's another thing that probably makes us unique in how we're built too, and how we approach business stuff too, as working together. Yeah. Working together on that sort of thing. I think too. Yeah. I think a lot of people don't have like the guts to even talk that way with their friends or bring those topics up. And I think that leads to, maybe not weak friendships, but it leads to friendships that are kind of more superficial than they could be.
I think even more so than friendships, right? Because if we're in a meeting with an investor, right, I'm not going to brown nose, right?
Right.
I might try and, just show my work ethic and the positive side of me, but that's not going to stop me from disagreeing with them on something if I disagree with them, right? And I feel like, a touch of disagreement where it is valid, right, relays that you are comfortable being yourself wherever, and that yields confidence, right? And if you're a new person, a potential business partner or an investor or someone, right, I would rather you build more trust with somebody who's authentic than somebody who's fake.
Yeah.
Right.
I hear that. And with that being said, I've completed my tea, and I think it is time for us to. Yeah, I think so. Cool. It's been definitely close to that, if not that.
All right, cool.
Time for us to authentically bump over to Pahana and work on some business
fucking
stuff.
Work done. Yeah. For anybody watching this, for future us watching this, we'll just close out every day talking to ourselves from 10 years from now. It's 9:39 and we're about to go get started on work.